I'm MarzGurl.
And I'm JoshKnightTheFirst.
And welcome to episode 14 of MokkoriPlay, the only podcast dedicated solely to all things City Hunter.
On today's podcast, we're going to cover episode 14 of City Hunter, titled Getting Married at Age 16, Hot Kiss with a Pop Idol.
Thankfully, they don't really share a kiss.
Yeah,
this idol is more infatuated with Ryo than it is the other way around.
Yes, but as you can tell from the title of today's episode, we're going to be dealing a lot with pop idol culture in Japan.
Which, that's a hot button topic, and has been for quite some time. This marks one of the earlier places in Japanese media where you kind of see an idol being the target of somebody's crazy attack.
Yeah, a crazed fan.
Yeah, I think most famously, of course, this shows up in the Satoshi Kon movie Perfect Blue, in which a pop idol goes from being an idol in a 3-team group to switching over into acting, and some crazy fan is like, oh, not on my watch, you're not gonna do that, you're still gonna stay this pop idol, and then goes crazy and tries to kill her rather than allowing her to pursue her dreams. So this comes up in media a whole bunch.
A lot in anime.
A lot in anime, so you have to figure that it happens and it must be inspired by real world events. We know, looking through some recent news articles from the last few years, we've seen idols have been, their addresses have been leaked online and then they get stalked to their homes. At handshake events, they get attacked by crazy people with knives and hacksaws. One girl in recent years got stabbed 61 times.
I know, it was awful.
Just awful. So all I'm saying is, although I didn't find a lot of articles about things that were happening in the 80s and 90s, this is clearly still happening today, that idols are getting attacked by crazed fans who just want these idols to just belong to them and them alone.
I mean, you hear about this happening to K-pop groups too, them getting threatened with acid and stabbings and things of that nature, but fans who take it way too far.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And part of that comes along with the idea of how an idol is manufactured, I would say in both countries, actually.
Well, yeah, because it's pretty similar. When an idol is produced, it doesn't matter the country, they're considered a product for consumption of the general public, and as such, you're trying to, as the management company, give as much access to the fans as possible, and then fans kind of take it too far and think they have ownership.
Right, well, they have strict rules on dating, for one thing.
Right, they can't say that they're dating anybody.
Right, and if anybody finds out that they're dating somebody, then it explodes into this big controversy because they're supposed to look like they're constantly available.
Yes.
So that they're even more marketable, because a fan will think, oh, well, they're not dating anybody, that means I might have a shot, which they don't. They do not have a shot, but it creates this illusion where people cannot tell the difference between fiction and reality. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunately kind of a big problem. In both of those countries, especially.
And then you see it showing up here in the anime. You see it sometimes show up in games. Yakuza 5.
Yes.
There's a big point of idol culture there being a central plot of the story. So we're going to dive into this story this week. Fictional, of course, of Ryo having to protect a pop idol. So here at the beginning, we're introduced to pop idol Nagisa Matsumura, who is currently performing her song, What's Going On, which is actually performed by the singer of the opening of the show, Love Don't Leave Me, Kahoru Kohiruimaki. That's a mouthful to say.
Kohiruimaki.
Yes, you said it better than I could. But yes, the person who sings the opening of the show is actually providing the vocals for the song that Nagisa is singing. Mm-hmm. And it's a banger.
I like that song a lot.
Like
What's going on? What's going on?
Yeah, like,
it's good.
Definitely go listen to it. You can look it up on YouTube, find a live performance of it, actually, that's on there.
Yeah.
It's so good.
It's very good.
But we see that the management of Nagisa is reaching out to City Hunter because she has been receiving threats. The current threat that she's received says if she doesn't retire within 1 week, she will face consequences, which will most likely be an acid attack that has also happened to another pop idol within the last month.
And that's pretty messed up. I've seen that acid attacks happen pretty frequently. I don't know how frequently acid attacks happen specifically to pop idols. However, I was finding like a bunch of news stories about, like, the one within recent years was a dude who was just randomly attacking women women coming home off their train station stop. Just women by themselves, just throwing acid on women. Because these dudes be weird like that out there.
Well, you remember within the last year, there was that guy who says he was dressed up as the Joker on the Tokyo Railway who was attacking people with acid?
Yeah, that was fucked up too.
Yeah, that was awful.
Yeah.
But here, thankfully, Nagisa has Ryo to protect her, and she's gonna need it because anywhere she goes, she has a full-on stampede of fans just trying to get at her. And we see them coming through and kind of run over Ryo in the process.
And they just destroy everything in their path. They take out like an entire wall just to get at her.
And several cars in a parking lot.
Yeah, the manager is asking, hey, how well do you guys run? And Ryo's like, oh, about as well as anybody. Why? She's like, start running.
And then you see Nagisa coming at them. Sorry, I couldn't get away without them seeing me. Like this huge throng, like crowds trying to get into the expo hall at Anime Expo is what I'm saying to you.
As soon as they open the doors at like 10 a.m. or whenever.
For the dealer's hall.
Yeah.
That's how many fans are coming after her. So she must be pretty popular.
Anime Expo, by the way, not a small event.
Yes.
Absolutely not a small event.
Okay, Anime Expo pre-COVID.
That's true. Although I imagine Anime Expo post-COVID or mid-COVID, COVID's still happening.
It's still happening. That's awful too.
I'm gonna assume that people are still gonna crowd like that because they're anime fans that really want to get into a dealer's hall no matter what is happening in this world.
Now, it's established early on in the episode that Nagisa is currently 15, going on 16 years old, and thankfully that's enough to turn Ryo up completely, thank God, because once he's given her age, he can't take it.
Yeah, it's like he goes, "Jugosai?" Like, she's 15? Like, he really complains about it. He does not want to be babysitting this kid.
Now, as such, Ryo is doing his best to go ahead and hit on her manager, who we're only given her last name Kushida. So Miss Kushida is the one that's being hit on by Ryo, but Nagisa apparently very quickly is jealous of this and wants that attention for herself.
Yeah, to which Ryo, like, she says to him, give me 10 years and I'll look even more beautiful than her. And Ryo's response is like, I don't want to wait 10 years for anything. Like, he's not even gonna, like, sometimes they make that joke, like, oh, I bet she'll be hot in 10 years. But at this point, he's actually like, you know what? No, that's kind of weird. I would rather be attracted to somebody that I can be attracted to right now, and not in 10 years. That's a weird thing to say, little young miss.
So we're gonna see for the most part that Ryo is actually taking this particular case seriously, in that he sees, given the nature of most of the circumstances Nagisa is going to be in, which are going to be concerts, he's more than likely not going to be able to protect her at all times. So he's going to put a focus on self-defense. So the first thing he tries to do is teach her how to have at least one good punch to get away from any potential assailant.
Which she fairly successfully learns, kind of sort of quick at least. Unfortunately, he gets distracted by the manager for just about 2 seconds, like right at the wrong moment as he's in the middle of teaching her how to punch.
Yes.
And he lets himself get socked in the nose pretty good.
Yes.
She gives him a bloody nose. That's not a bad punch.
Yeah, that's a solid punch. That's at least enough to get away.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the point here. At least let her get away long enough for Ryo to potentially intervene.
Later on, he starts trying to teach her how to kick. Unfortunately, he is kind of like, there's a panty shot here. And I almost wonder, like, it's a really stupid thing to have to rationalize. If he's more interested in the underwear than the person that is wearing the underwear.
Because I think he has a thing just for underwear in general.
Yeah, like we see so often, like he's just fascinated by bras and panties all the time. And they don't have to be attached to a person. He just is really interested in lingerie.
I mean, I think it might be one of those things, and again, this is pure speculation, but like in the jungles of South America, where unfortunately he grew up, maybe the best he had was a Sears catalog? Like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe the best, and then he eventually upgraded to Victoria's Secret, and then, the rest is history.
I guess. But he's teaching her how to kick, so that's another thing that she's got in her repertoire.
Admittedly, though, he does get a kick in the face that he deserved once she quickly realized, oh, you're just trying to get a look in, pow, right in the face.
Thankfully, it's the only moment where he's being a little bit skeezy there. And
To her.
And all the rest of the times he's like, you know what? Nah, this is weird. And if she's trying to hit on me, yeah, it's still weird. I still kind of don't actually want to be in a relationship with a child.
Yeah, that's just weird. We're not doing that. So flash forward to Summerfest 87, which is apparently a concert festival that Nagisa's performing at. Nagisa, again, only has the one song, but it's a banger, so
What's
let it go.
going on? What's going on?
It's so good. We see that Ryo is experiencing, again, firsthand.
It's really hard to see wherever an attack could be coming from.
Yes.
When a crowd is just that big.
And riled up. Ryo actually feels up some of the crowd, apparently.
He feels up people in the crowd because he's told that they are so entranced by what's going on, that he can just do whatever he wants. So he turns around to these two ladies sitting in the row behind him like, oh, you mean I can just do this? and he grabs.
Yeah, and Cowdy's right there and she's about to wail on him. Unfortunately, it's at that moment the crowd gives way and rushes the stage.
Seemingly, as far as Ryo is telling us, this was on purpose. He believes this was on purpose, that this was planned.
That this was orchestrated by the culprit that's sending the threats.
But thankfully, he swings in just in time, like on a rope, well, all Tarzan style.
Well, Tarzan, Zorro, Batman, Spider-Man, whichever superhero of your choice. He swings in, swoops up Nagisa, and gets up to the rafters, and apparently everybody could still see them just fine, because after he saves her, she plants one on his cheek, and everybody's like, what?
I just want to point out, while we're still in this concert scene, though, that the song, What's Going On? What's Going On? Is performed by a performer who's got this nice, deep, womanly voice. And Nagisa, at this point in time, is still 15 years old, and her speaking voice does not sound like that.
No.
I'm just saying, like, I don't think she's the singer.
No, like, you wouldn't look at, like, to look at her, and you've never seen City Hunter before, you look at her and you're like, hey, aren't you Yugi's friend from Yu-Gi-Oh? You got the same haircut?
My Valentine? No,
not my,
Taya. I was about to say her Japanese name is like Anzu or something like that. And for whatever reason,
I'm 4 kids out with that. It's Taya.
For whatever reason, I could not remember Taya, even though I spent more time listening to the 4 Kids dub. Whatever. Yes, she's got Taya's haircut.
Yes.
Yeah.
But you don't expect like an Aretha Franklin, what's going on? What's going on? To come out of that body.
Yeah.
I mean, it can happen. Sometimes voices, specifically singing voices, develop early and really powerful. So
that's fine, but usually the singing voice also sounds like the person's actual voice. Usually,
it's just a rare case.
I would much more likely expect her to sound like all these other cutesy idol groups that you hear.
Like some Bang Dream kind of.
Bang Dream and like AKB48.
How do they pronounce it? Muse?
Muse is another one. Yeah.
Yeah, sound like one of those.
Yeah, Love Live kind of shit.
But since Ryo's daring rescue was seen by pretty much everybody who was on stage, who was pretty much everybody at the concert, the tabloids the very next day are eating this up. Looks like Nagisa's got a new boyfriend?
And Ryo's like, oh, they're gonna hate me. Even down at the agency, they're gonna hate me. Because we just had this discussion at the beginning of the episode, right? That agencies are like, oh no, you're in a relationship with somebody. We need to deal with this right now. You need to get out of the relationship, for one thing, and you need to apologize to everybody for even being in the relationship.
It's your fault. You should feel shame.
Yeah, that's usually, unfortunately, how Japan's entertainment business works. So Ryo is expecting that kind of a reaction.
With good reason.
Because this is what happens all the time. But he goes to the agency and everybody's like,
Bonsai!
Yay! Thank you! And he's like, why? What did I do? And they're like, well, we got this letter from the guy who was sending threats. And he says in the letter, well, this is exactly what I was trying to avoid, and this is exactly why I told you.
Yeah, you're a germ. You're getting your germs on her.
So, instead of killing her, well, I'm still gonna kill her, but first, I'm gonna kill you.
And at this point, you would think, like, okay, the agency should probably fire Ryo. This isn't going too well. They're like, no. He wants to kill you first, so that's great. Like, keep that up. We're gonna let this one ride. And it's like, really? Okay. All right. Sure. So I am getting paid for this, right? Okay, great. We'll keep it up. So moving on with the idea of making sure that Nagisa is able to defend herself, he gets her a present. But along with this, it seems that after the attack at the concert the night before, she's gotten a lot of presents. So Ryo is in her room checking out these presents, and it turns out one of them, a stuffed bear, actually has a listening device, a bug there inside of the present. So Ryo catches on to this. Unfortunately, he also finds a trap that Kaori put there within the presents, a little steel trap that he keeps kind of sticking his hand back into.
He puts his hand in it. Like, it kind of seems like there's more than one of them in there.
Because it looked to me like it was the same one.
Well,
like he put it away in his pocket, and then he keeps reaching back in there and getting it stuck again. Like,
I don't know.
Why are you doing this to yourself, man?
Kaori is basically trying to protect Nagisa from Ryo because Kaori is way overprotective of these other ladies. Probably is also jealous and doesn't quite realize it internally within herself yet. So she's thinking, oh, I'm gonna protect this teenage girl, not from the guy who's trying to kill her, but from Ryo from trying to hit on her, which she doesn't realize Ryo does not want that at all.
He wants a woman. He don't want a girl.
He does not want
He doesn't want to wait 10 years. He doesn't want to wait 10 seconds. Like, my God.
He really doesn't. But in any case, so he does go in there, and despite all of Kaori's traps, he has brought Nagisa a present. And it's brass knuckles, but Nagisa doesn't know what brass knuckles are. She's just like, oh, what is this? Is it some kind of a ring? Oh, it's an engagement ring. Are we getting married? And Ryo's just
at first she tries to turn him down, like, I don't know, this is kind of sudden. But because Ryo has again stuck his hand into one of Kaori's traps, he's trying to hold back tears. So to her, it looks like he's really emotional, and she completely reads this wrong. So she goes on TV the next day and says, oh, I have a fiance now. We're getting married.
It shows off brass knuckles as if that's what an engagement ring is.
And Ryo's like, oh, what have I gotten myself into? This is so stupid. And Kaori's there trying to tell him, no, look at this little girl in the eye. This little girl is serious about you.
She really thinks this is real, man. You gotta do something about this. Unfortunately, he just kind of continues to play along for a little while. Like, no, well, I know you tried to put the quote-unquote engagement ring on your engagement ring finger.
On the left hand.
On the left hand. I'm gonna need you to put that on the right hand. Oh, what for? Oh, it's a special engagement ring, and it gets worn on the right hand. And she's like, oh, I get it. Cool. Really, the intention is to make sure she's got a weapon in case she needs to knock somebody's lights out.
Right, because when they have this conversation again about the ring, the bug is still there in the room. They haven't removed it, which I think is stupid, but at the same time, they want to catch this guy.
Right.
So Ryo has to still kind of play along with things. Like, all right, I gotta make him think that I'm actually serious. Here, 15-year-old girl, let's talk about our engagement. 15-year-old girl, can't wait to marry you. 15-year-old girl. And the guy on the other hand,
he's regretting it the whole time. He hates it.
And the same time, this, I can say incel, right? This guy's an incel.
Oh, clearly. Yes, the terminology had not been invented in 1987, but yes.
Yeah, so this guy on the other end who's bugging the gifts, the room that Nagisa is in, you can see all over his apartment, much like in a movie like Perfect Blue. He's got posters everywhere. He's got like a dot matrix printout of Nagisa there in his room. You know, the old kind where you had to tear off the strip on the side.
Yeah.
Like, this dude's got it bad.
And we actually talked about this recently. The strip on the side, you know, you take the two strips off on the left and the right. Kids these days don't know about my dot matrix printers. And then they've got the little holes down the side, and then you
line them up.
You line them up perfectly, and then you fold them over.
And then you make the accordion.
And then you unfold it, and it looks like an accordion or like a DNA strip or whatever. Yeah. And you, anyway, that was a cool, fun thing that you used to do that nobody can relate to anymore. I don't know if anybody listening to this even knows what in God's name I'm talking about.
That's how you know we're not young anymore.
Oh, no.
So Nagisa's plan now is at this next concert coming up, she's going to announce both that she's going to retire and she is going to marry Ryo. And she figures this is going to go over great with the crowd.
And Ryo's just kind of like, this is terrible, but I can't tell her no.
Because this is definitely going to draw out our threatening guy.
Our jackass, yeah.
Jackass number 1.
Which it does, because she goes out there and does she initially perform What's Going On?
Oh yeah,
What's
she
going
performs
on?
the song first, which, that's what you came here to see, get the one song out of her. Does she have any other songs?
Well, she was about to lead into her nice slow song.
That we assume she has.
She totally has a second song,
We're gonna say, yeah, right, sure.
And so she's like...
She stops the concert cold.
Yes.
And she's like, okay, guys, I got an announcement to make. And everybody's like, what? What's she saying? What's going on?
So today's actually my 16th birthday. Yeah.
And first thing I'm thinking is, like, if they're all such big fans of her, wouldn't they have known that?
Also, you're a 16-year-old girl, and you're feeling like, oh, I love my new boyfriend / fiance guy, and I should probably tell him when my birthday is, or else I'm gonna be really sad when he doesn't get me a birthday present. Like, Rio didn't know it was her birthday. He had no idea it was her birthday.
Like, at that point, not even at that point, this whole case, Rio was like, 15, I am checked out. I'm just gonna do my job, I'm gonna get my check, and then I'm going to the red light district after this. That's what I'm doing. I'm getting boozed up after this. I'm going to a hostess club. That's what I'm doing.
But she continues her announcement like, well, the age of 16 means that legally I can get married, which I believe might be, to this day, I believe might be true, but I believe it requires parental permission as well to do so. This is something that came up also in the anime Tonikawa, where the main character, young lady, who is probably actually thousands of years old, because that's an anime thing. Anyway, on Earth, she's 16. Whatever. Okay. And they go up to the government official guy, and they fill out the paperwork, and her paperwork says, 16? Oh, well, you're gonna need parental permission for that. And she's like, I got it right here. Yeah. Ironically, there is no parent there, so she just had somebody sign it. Anyway, that's a totally different show. What I'm saying that to say that, yes, it's a thing you can do, but I don't know what it was like in 1987, but as of right now, I believe it requires parental permission. Did she get her parents' consent? I don't know, but she sure is convinced that she's just gonna do this thing.
I mean, do you really think she thought it through any further than this older guy just proposed to me? I am so flattered right now.
Oh, that's true.
Now, while this is all going on, the audience is getting...
What's going on? What's going on?
Okay, I did walk into that one. While all of these events are happening, how about that?
While all these events are happening.
Oh, God.
Okay, all right, I forced that one in. I'm not going to do that.
The crowd's getting riled up. They notice Rio out in the crowd trying to monitor who's where, and the fans recognize them like, hey, you're the fiancé! And they all try to jump him. And while this is all going on, Nagisa is making the announcement, well, about that, I'm gonna get mad. And before she can even get the words...
Don't say that word! This guy comes out.
We see that he's a guard there at the event, but it turns out he's the guy, the incel that we've been worried about this whole episode. And he comes out, hey, what do you have there in your hand?
A knife!
No! And so he comes running with the knife towards Nagisa.
And then Rio shoots the knife.
And it's kind of a tense moment there because you're not sure what's going to happen first. If he's going to reach Nagisa with a knife or if Ryo's bullet is going to reach our assailant in time. Thankfully, yes, it does break the knife, but the assailant does get right up on top of Nagisa. Thankfully, she's got those brass knuckles and clocks him one right across the chin.
And it's a good thing she thought fast enough to do it, because if somebody's not necessarily trained to have that reaction, you expect more to like cower in fear, like, or like try and protect
or lock up, freeze up.
Yeah.
But thankfully, Rio had been working with her enough throughout the episode that she knew, okay, this is the one move I got, I'm gonna do it. And that's enough to stop him. So he's arrested, he's taken away, and unfortunately now Rio has to explain to this 16-year-old girl, we're not getting married.
And, she's heartbroken. It ends with her just on stage. The concert has been let out. It probably ended right there. Like
usually you can't keep going on after somebody rushes the stage with a knife.
Can't keep going on. Keep going on.
Oh my God.
She's just sobbing.
And Rio's just like, Kaori, Miss Kushida, can you help me out here? And
nope,
they're like,
you broke this teenage girl's heart, not us. You get to deal with it. She's like, I want to get married now. And Rio's finally like, I'll do that thing you said earlier about the waiting 10 years thing. And she's like, no, now or never.
It's marriage or nothing. And then we get the pullout and get wild, and that's going to be our episode. So,
Rio did not assault a teenager. That's the good news.
Yeah, technically the one thing he did do was in training her in self-defense, and he did get kicked in the face for that much.
Yeah.
He did assault those two women in the audience, but then he immediately got trampled almost to death, thank God.
Also, it sort of seemed like the women didn't even notice that. Not that makes it okay.
No, it wouldn't.
But like, it didn't really feel to me like he got consequences for that one.
No. Really, this whole episode is to say, if you're going to go to a concert, it's cool to be a fan. It's cool to put on the hoppy coat and have out your glow sticks. Just don't be weird to the people that you're there to watch.
Yeah, maybe don't do so much of the threaten to kill them if they don't give you attention sort of thing. And we see that sort of thing happen with public figures all the time, especially if you have any sort of presence on the internet. We see that with YouTubers and Twitch streamers. It's just becoming an increasingly terrifying thing.
Well, because the whole thing with a parasocial relationship. You think you've got more access than you do. And then you're overstepping boundaries, and try not to do that.
Yeah, try not to do that. You know, I brought up the lady who had been stabbed 61 times, and she ended up taking that to court, and laws have since been passed that have sort of brought internet stalking into the picture as far as stalking laws are concerned in Japan. So now there's at least the image that Japan is taking internet stalking a little bit more seriously.
Well, because you can imagine if this was taking place now, like if City Hunter was happening in 2022, that would have changed from just sending a threatening letter to sending threatening tweets or things like that.
Exactly. And this person that this horrible thing happened to in real life had been receiving just a deluge of awful internet messages, mail, just everything under the sun before she ended up getting stabbed multiple times. So you can only hope that you keep seeing this in media. I've already mentioned it just shows up in TV and movies, and it has for decades. So hopefully laws are slowly being better put in place, especially in Japan, where this is a big problem for idols, so that this does not have to continue to be such a big problem for idols.
Right, let the idols sing in peace.
Yes.
And so next week we won't have to worry about teenagers anymore. We're going to college.
Yeah, like adults.
Thankfully.
I mean, they're young adults, but they're adults. Phew.
Which is preferable.
So please do come back next time when we cover the 15th episode of the TV series, Ryo's a lecherous lecturer at a woman's university, protect the lovely lady.
If you want to catch us outside this podcast, you can always find us both over on Twitter. I'm at JoshKnightTheFirst.
And I'm at MarzGurl. Thank you all so much for listening to our 14th episode of MokkoriPlay, and if you don't come back next episode, I'm gonna release racy photos of Josh on the internet.
Not if I release them first!